Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away.
Hey, this is Eric, the Houston fan, and I just wanted to take a few seconds and just make sure that those radio listeners knew about the Facebook side of the show. It's so fun. There's so much more to the show going on during the breaks. You get to hang out with Chris, Shannon, and Jeremy, talk junk. It's like a bunch of wiseacres in the back of the classroom just having fun, and it's such a cool interactive experience. So just want to make sure people know about it. Thanks.
Dan Patrick on ticket 760.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a Monday morning. It is a Monday morning. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, as we react to what happened all weekend long with the NFL draft, with the NBA playoffs. Crazy, crazy weekend in sports, a beautiful weekend in sports. And we now know who the new Dallas Cowboys are and the new Houston Texans are and the new players are around the National Football League. And we got some very, very big results in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney on what really is a manic Monday behind the scenes here, as we got a couple of gremlins and ghosts in the machine. So Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, as I toss to you here, my first question is, can you hear me in Austin this morning?
Check. Mic check. I got you, Chris.
Woo! I hear you. Isn't that amazing?
It's so simple, yet such a huge relief to all of us.
Yeah, we had a little bit of craziness, and we still kind of do. Hopefully, as you listen to us this morning, especially in this first hour, it won't sound that funky to you. But we got engineers bouncing off the walls trying to fix some issues. Shannon, how was your weekend? Are you a happy Dallas Cowboys fan with who the Cowboys took care of over the weekend and brought into the fold?
I'm okay. I'm definitely a prove it kind of person. I think Coach A, or actually it was Andy Everett who said the same sentiment that I kind of feel like it's very much like a class signing at the college level, right? They have these stars, they have these grades. You've been watching them, you've seen them perform at the previous level. You're hoping they can make an immediate impact. But it's one thing to have those things. It's another to get out on the field and perform at a high level. But an exciting weekend overall. What a weird draft, right? I mean, there's no big story, I think, that anyone is really looking at aside from just guys that were projected to maybe go a lot sooner than they did, or guys that didn't even get drafted at all. But happy for everyone who got drafted or was signed as an undrafted free agent. Huge for them. I was reading this morning, there are a ton of undrafted free agents that were signed and still got six figures guaranteed from their new teams. I mean, living the dream is what I say.
Yeah. It's a lot of dreams came true over the weekend. And as you mentioned, even for some undrafted guys, they, on a certain level, if you don't want to go in the 6th or the 7th round, I mean, it's nice to say you were drafted, but if you were close, if you were on the bubble, you then have an opportunity to, maybe consider offers from multiple teams and then decide where you want to go. And decide where the best fit for you is. Here in San Antonio, Sincere McCormick, the UTSA running back who was prolific, a little undersized by NFL standards. The word was over the weekend that it was the Seattle Seahawks who offered him, a chance to come into camp. So a lot of stories like that. But you're right, Shannon. It was. I don't remember a draft like this at all. Not only in recent memory. I'm trying to think way back where there wasn't some huge marquee prize, where there wasn't a Peyton Manning or a Troy Aikman. I remember when the Cowboys drafted Tony Dorsett. I mean, there always was some big, it was Trevor Lawrence a year ago. It was Sunshine. There was always some big prize in the draft, and there really wasn't, and there really wasn't a whole lot of controversy. You looked at the Cowboys' first draft pick, and a lot of people said, well, we had him in the 2nd round. And the Cowboys said we had him at number 16 and we got him at number 24. I mean, there were stories like that for draft geeks, of which I'm kind of a draft geek. And our good friend, Coach A, Paul Alexander, who's going to join us at just after 8 o'clock, about 8:05 this morning, a special edition of Coach A, Paul Alexander, to talk Cowboys and Texans and the NFL draft. If you weren't a draft geek, I imagine you maybe lost interest pretty quickly after the first round in this one.
Yeah, and I'll raise my hand and say I was one of those people. I mean, from all angles, and here I was thinking, Vegas. We would get the freak show that is Vegas come to the NFL draft, and there would be stories galore. And instead, it was people throwing out videos from previous drafts. The CeeDee Lamb girlfriend phone stealing video, what was going around. I think my favorite video of all happened day one, which was Kenny Pickett and him getting his call, and I don't think we ever saw his face because he was just so emotionally overcome being drafted by the Steelers, and just his whole head was in his lap the entire time, just overcome with emotion. I mean, it was lacking, which is weird because the NFL is so great at being the main story and creating stories on top of stories and drawing in interest, that for this year to just kind of feel like, I don't know. I don't know if it was because Vegas and expectations were high, or if it was just because of the draft class that we got.
Yeah, I just think we got by all accounts, a good draft class. They're all, they're very good players. They're going to help teams. And, the Rams, the last few years have been drafting really well in the middle rounds. They've been trading away their draft picks to get stars. And then that it was incumbent upon them to get really, really quality middle rounders to help them. And that's certainly something we hope the Cowboys have done as well. Jeremy Kolok, I don't know if you've got a moment to talk to us. Again, pulling back the curtain and behind the scenes, you and the boss man, Brian Gann, working feverishly from about 5:40 to 6:10 this morning, trying to make sure we get on the air. And so far, so good on a lot of levels. But I know a lot of your focus over the weekend was the clash, and we will get to it, between the Golden State Warriors and your Memphis Grizzlies yesterday. But first, your thoughts on the NFL draft. Did it pique your interest? Did it excite you? Or, as Shannon and I discovered, was it pretty much, lacking in surprises, just as far as big storylines go?
Yeah, it did lack in surprises. I didn't really think about it till y'all brought it up. But yeah, Chris, just to be honest with you, I was pretty into it Thursday and Friday, and Saturday morning even I woke up and watched some of the pre-draft stuff because we didn't have any basketball on Saturday. But once Saturday afternoon rolled around, I lost all interest. I don't know, it just it just is repetitive, Chris. It was a lot of names I've never heard of. It was a lot of non-stars from the NCAA. You know what I mean? Guys that I didn't see in the college football playoff. And by then, I was just like, just tell me when the Cowboys are back up.
And that is a good way to approach the draft. And that I kind of do that every year. I'm locked in for the first round, and then my interest begins to wane. But I don't lose interest. The interest just wanes, and I wind up multitasking. I wind up either having it on or going to some other sports. Certainly on Sunday yesterday, 2 really big-time NBA games. One in the East, a semifinal game between the Bucks and the Celtics. The later game in the afternoon, Warriors, Grizzlies. And just your first thoughts, Jeremy. You're a big Grizzlies fan. And again, I'm trying to figure out who I'm really pulling for here. You each have your teams in the semi. Shannon is a big Dallas Mavericks fan. You're a big Memphis Grizzlies fan. Man, Jeremy, and I was certainly pulling for the Grizzlies against the Warriors. I've had enough Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and the Golden State Warriors to last me the rest of my natural lifetime. When Draymond Green got ejected in the second quarter, I thought, all right, it's a Grizzlies kind of an afternoon here. Things are going to go the Grizzlies' way. Then it goes down to the wire. Grizzlies got a couple of calls late, including that jump ball that I with like 4.8 seconds left or 3.6, whatever it was, that I thought replay clearly showed it was touched by a Grizzly going out of bounds. But I was happy. It's like, cool. No harm, no foul. Let's go Grizzlies. But as it turned out, the Golden State Warriors, with all of their veteran championship pedigree, they hang on for a 1-point win. They beat the Grizzlies 117-116. Your thoughts on that game yesterday?
It was a great game, like you said, but I'm a little worried, Chris, Shannon. It feels like that was the one they needed to win. Like you said, you have Draymond that gets taken out in the first half, and obviously it's a home game for Memphis. It's game 1. And really, the Warriors shooters didn't overwhelmingly have one of those games where they just don't miss, and you just feel like no matter what you do, they're just going to keep making shots on you. And it's a good game. I think it's going to be a great series. So fun to watch. Every time John Morant goes up, I hold my breath because he looks like a stunt double every time he lands. Like, it's like he doesn't know how to land safely without it looking incredible every time. Like, it's just it really worries me. I hope he doesn't get hurt just because of with how powerful he is and how the athleticism he goes to the rim. Like, there's nobody else in the league that can do that right now. But I'm pretty worried, Chris, Shannon. It seemed like that was the one that they really needed to win. And the Warriors, they're just on another level,
Yeah.
Chris. Shannon, I don't know if y'all watch them on offense, but off the ball, the shots they get are not even close to the shots the rest of the teams in NBA get, the other 29 teams. They make it look so easy the way the players that aren't even taking the shots, like Draymond, just go out of their way to set up shooters. I mean, they're just too good, it seems like. And their collision course with the Phoenix Suns, which is most likely going to happen here in the Western Conference Finals, that is going to be incredible.
Well, a little disappointed that you're so quick to say the Warriors are on a collision course with the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
But Shannon, what Jeremy just alluded to, I had that like in the final minute when it could have gone either way. I was thinking to myself, this is going to be a 2-game swing. This is a game that Memphis can get. And I really felt if Memphis got it, it was like, hey, even though Draymond Green was ejected, and I always enjoy that because I don't like Draymond Green at all. I really thought that if the Grizzlies could take the Warriors' best punch late and win that game, I think they would have sent a statement to the Warriors and to the rest of the league. Hey, we are for real. We can hang with this team that so many people right now are favoring the Warriors to win the whole darn thing. And again, the 2-game swing, instead of being up 1 game now, you're down 1 game. Warriors now do have home court advantage. They'll be kind of playing with house money. The Warriors will in game 2. If they take game 2 on Memphis's floor at the FedEx Forum, then they're really going to be in the driver's seat in a big, big way in this series. Your thoughts on that one, Shannon, and Also, the earlier game, the Milwaukee Bucks steal a game on the road as well, as they go into Boston and wind up winning that one by double digits, 101-89.
Yeah, the Bucks pretty much bullied Boston on their home floor. I think if that continues, they'll have their way with the Celtics. That Grizzlies game, I'm kind of wondering. Grizzlies played on Friday night to get into the second round, while the Warriors, their first round game was on Wednesday. So I don't know if that extra day of rest, with looking at how close that game was, if ultimately the Warriors just had the legs to get them to that final score to ultimately win the game. And you mentioned the gifts, the Draymond being ejected as early as he was into that game, and having the home court advantage. And also you had Klay Thompson, who shot really well from the floor, but missed a couple of crucial free throws down the stretch. Hopefully I'm not as quick as Jeremy is to throw his team out of the playoffs quite yet. I would hope that this is a 6, even 7 game series just for the entertainment value, but they're certainly going to have to win game 2 on their own court to keep this one moving.
You make a great point, Shannon, about legs and tired and fatigue. As you mentioned, Golden State's previous game had been on a Wednesday night. It was a game that the Grizzlies had to win on Friday night to be here yesterday to play this game. And I even heard the announcers say late in the game that Ja Morant looked tired. And they said, and the follow-up was, that could be good or that could be bad because he's such a dynamic player. And as it turned out, Ja Morant with that scoop layup attempt at the buzzer, very similar to a scoop layup attempt that he had made earlier in the contest, earlier in that fourth quarter. I mean, if that one goes, it's a whole different story. I mean, he had a good look. He had a drive to the basket. He had a scoop layup that would have given the Grizzlies a 118-117 win, but instead he misses it, and they lose by 117-116. And nonetheless, Shannon, Ja Morant nearly a triple-double, 34 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds, 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. And it really, what was fun about this game and what I think is going to be fun about this series, and like you, I want to see it go deep. And I certainly don't want to see the Warriors close it out quickly and then be able to rest for the next series. But it really does look like the young guns of the Memphis Grizzlies taking on this established dynasty. And let's face it, these guys in the Golden State Warriors have been a dynasty. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and certainly Steve Kerr. It's a question of, can the young guns take down the dynasty, or will the dynasty prevail? And it's a fun storyline.
Yeah. And you're going to have to help me here, Jeremy, but Ja Morant, his father, is he the one that looks like Usher? Because that has become an unexpected storyline out of Memphis being in the playoffs. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Chris, but his father, Ja Morant's father, sits courtside for most of his son's games, and people were joking he looks like Usher, and I guess during a lot of games, because there was another funny incident yesterday with the Boston game, that they will show people in the stands and then compare them to a celebrity lookalike. And one of their games, they did that with Ja Morant's father, and then panned over, and there was Usher actually sitting next to him, and they were wearing basically the same outfit. Probably wasn't planned because they don't seem like the type of guys to do that. It's like a black shirt with a chain. And it's uncanny. So I love that storyline. I love that the families are kind of being brought into this. And now I need to ask you this question, because yesterday at the Bucks and Celtics game, Scott Foster, who is the referee the Suns know and love, luckily was reffing that Milwaukee and Boston game. And prior to, he was discussing with the other referee. They were like, "Who's Jack Harlow?" They kept showing Jack Harlow on the screen. They're like, "He's sitting right there, white shirt." Who is Jack Harlow? Do you, sir, know who Jack Harlow is?
I did not. I would have been one of those referees going, "I don't know who Jack Harlow is." And then they said he's a rapper. He's another white rapper.
He's a rapper.
Here we go.
Yeah. His song is called "What's Poppin'." That's his big hit. And right now he's got a new one out that samples some Fergie. And the NBA loves some Fergie.
See, now what I like about What's Poppin' as a title is maybe we could, use that when we talk about Greg Popovich. Hey,
yeah,
it's time for our daily episode of What's Poppin'. We play Harlow's What's Poppin'. We talk a little Greg Popovich. I don't know, man. That could be a whole new segment for us. What's poppin'?
If that hasn't been done already.
But no, I didn't know him either.
If the Spurs haven't used that in some way, how dare they? Because you're right. That's perfect.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to give them ideas. So and it's so weird, as I try to figure out who I'm pulling for, and I can't believe I haven't locked in yet. I was watching that Milwaukee series against Boston yesterday, and you got two coaches from the Greg Popovich coaching tree, Ime Udoka of the Boston Celtics against Mike Budenholzer of the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I've got like a long-standing, and I guess I got to let it go, Shannon, kind of a sports hatred for the Boston Celtics, because back in the day, when the Spurs and three other ABA teams were trying to merge with the NBA, Red Auerbach famously tried everything he could to keep the Spurs and the Denver Nuggets and the Indiana Pacers and what were then the New York Nets. When they merged, they wouldn't let them stay in New York. They made them go be the New Jersey Nets. Red Auerbach hated the ABA because they competed with the NBA. They took players like Julius Erving and Rick Barry and George Gervin and George McGinnis and Artis Gilmore, and it cost Red Auerbach and other NBA owners money in these contract negotiations over the years. So Red Auerbach, the ABA was failing. Red Auerbach wanted them to die the death and everybody fold, and that would be vindictive. So, I mean, and that was like 1976. You would think I could let it go, Shannon, but I can't. And the other reason I kind of like Milwaukee, I was thinking about it. Okay, well, they're the defending champions, the Milwaukee Bucks, so they got their championship. Shouldn't I be pulling for Boston in this? Because you got Ime Udoka, you got Derek White, traded by the Spurs at the All-Star break. So there's two Spurs connections there. Meanwhile, on Milwaukee, I saw George Hill, former Spur, on the sidelines in street clothes. And you got not only Mike Budenholzer, you've got former Spurs assistant Chad Forcier, who is now a Bucks assistant, his significant other, Cassandra Lazenby, who's a friend. So I don't know. It's like I one of the ways I usually pick a team in the playoffs as soon as the Spurs are out is I add up my Spurs connections. So I'm still having a hard time here figuring out who I'm pulling for. But I don't think I can pull for Boston.
Yeah.
I think I have to.
See, the thing with pulling for Boston is that you admittedly kind of become a short-term fan, and their fan base I can't really hang with, right? With the way they kind of behave.
Yeah.
But even,
they're
Brad Stevens, who former coach and now the GM, he left. There's a great video of him leaving the suite with like 7.5 minutes left in that game. He just already gave up. Game 1 is over. We'll see you at game 2, I guess, because he was out and not willing to see that one through. So they've definitely got some work to do. And it'll be interesting to see what his fate might be. Either after this season or next season if they can't get it done, because being GM was almost his saving grace of staying with the organization when he couldn't get it done as a coach. And now here we are, and looks like they may get bounced from the playoffs at the hands of the reigning champs, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, and I mean, for the Celtics, they started the season really floundering and sub 500, and I felt bad for Ime Udoka, who's a good guy and a longtime Spurs and Greg Popovich assistant. So I think, and if you look at the record during the game, they put up what the record was since something like January 23rd. Celtics are something like 24-8. That's not that's off the top of my head trying to remember the graphic. So arguably, the Celtics are probably the hottest team in the NBA right now since mid-January or early February. So Milwaukee, though, a big win for them last night. Again, just like Golden State. And I said last night it was daytime. It was a big when for them on the road. I wonder, Shannon, if home court advantage means what it used to mean, because back in the when the Spurs and their big three were playing and winning 5 NBA championships. If a team stole one on the road in the first 2 games, that was a big deal. And that really changed the complexion of the series. So I'm not sure yet how how much this matters. That Milwaukee won at TD Garden in Boston yesterday. The fact that Golden State won yesterday at what used to be the Grindhouse, FedEx Forum in Memphis. So we'll see moving forward if these are. I'm having a feeling that home court advantage isn't as big as it used to be.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I think typically in the realm of basketball, you'd consider the Garden for the Celtics to be one of the top places that would have that home court advantage because of their fan base, because of the history of what's gone on in that building. And I think you're right. And I don't know if maybe COVID kind of shifted that, where players just became, because there were no fans, more comfortable playing in other arenas. Because basketball, to me, more than any other sport, really does have that home court advantage feel when you are playing at home because of the brightness of the lights, the distance from stands behind the hoops, right? Everything you do shoot around because you have to make those adjustments. But for whatever reason, the Bucks very comfortable on the floor of the Boston Celtics.
Speaking of hoops, I see Amber on the live video feed just wrote, last night's Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO was fantastic. Amber, no spoilers. We're going to watch it today after the show, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. It is the 9th out of 10 episodes of Winning Time. So good to hear, Amber, though. I'm excited about that. We're going to take a quick break. We are all over the NFL draft, the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball. Astros lose 2 out of 3 to the Toronto Blue Jays over the weekend. I'm not happy about that, but we'll talk Astros, Rangers, and more. Coming up, the high five play of the day. A little bit later, Shannon Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and a bonus edition of Coach A, Paul Alexander, on the Cowboys, the Texans, and the NFL draft. Coach A joins us just after 8 o'clock. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Manic Monday. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. What about now? So you can hear me now? Okay, good. All right, now apparently I have to turn my microphone on in here. We got a few technical issues this morning, so it's so weird. All right. So weird. There's it's Monday. Yeah. Fun. So sorry to add just one more layer of something you got to worry about, which is keeping me down during the breaks if I want to talk to the video people. That's reflex? Okay, cool. All right, man. Thanks. Mike Taylor. I should be a ventriloquist. I should have I could do ventriloquism with Mike Taylor. What do you think? Good idea? Are you going to have high five music? Are you going to be able to fire that? Okay. Yeah, Ticket and Austin. But I think the meltdown is coming from here. So, Amber, we're excited that you really liked episode 9 of Winning Time. I will watch that later today, probably this morning after the show. Looking forward to that. Luisa, welcome in. Eric Winchester, welcome in. Hector Gomez, Anthony Del Toro, Steve Duraco, the original Rock. Gonna guzzle some more coffee. Uh-oh, Amber, grab your tissue when you're watching Winning Time today. Wow. I'm trying to think because I was around for that. Is it about the coach who's forced out, or are they already forcing Paul Westhead out? Oh, I'll bet you it's Jerry Buss's mom. I mean, don't tell me no spoilers. I'll bet you that's it. Sally Field. But my God, so many great performances. Sally Field, John C. Reilly as Jerry Buss. Even though he's a madman, Jason Clarke as Jerry West. Adrian Brody as Pat Riley has grown on me. Okay. See, you gave me a spoiler. You gave me a spoiler, Amber. See who else got in here this morning. Tracy Bogert, good morning. Hector Gomez, Anthony Del Toro, Eric Winchester, Clint Proctor, Jesse Bratton, Wes Perkins. Wes Perkins, trust me, man. It's very good. It's worth watching. 1 minute out. Okay. We're almost back. This will be a shorter on-air segment because we went 10 minutes longer due to the technical problems in that first segment. Yeah, if John C. Reilly doesn't win Best Actor in a dramatic series, Amber, I am going to be quite disappointed. Here we come.
What's poppin'? Brand new. Put a bed in the friend zone. This sound like an intro jet song. Give me
Jack Harlow, baby. I'm all about
about
Jack Harlow. I'm all about hockey and Jack Harlow. This is your source for all things hockey and Jack Harlow. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Do I you know, I've always white rappers. I like hip hop. Something about white rappers. Just you better be really good is all I'm saying, Shannon. And I'm guessing you and Jeremy believe Jack Harlow is really good. He had front row seats. He must be doing something right.
He's having a moment right now. He's definitely a hot name in the industry. A lot of ladies love him. Not my type, but yeah, he's a big deal right now.
Okay, he's hot right. How long has he been hot? 2 years, 1 year? How long have you known about Jack Harlow?
I think when did that song come out? Was it last summer or the summer before last? That song actually really blew up when some teachers during COVID like made a little video using that song and like transformed it into a school anthem of sorts. But yeah, he's having
The
a moment.
2020 release.
2020, yeah. So
he's had
it's a
2 years. So
COVID.
he broke in 2020
Everyone
in a big
at
way.
home, yeah. And so now because everyone's, the festivals, he's been at like nearly every festival. I feel like, in 2020 is when he came to the scene, but everyone's stuck at home, and now they're seeing him out and about, and he's just captured a nation, Chris.
Eric Winchester saying on the live video feed that song by Jack Harlow is TikTok famous. So, and again, if you're just tuning in, Jack Harlow was sitting front row at the Bucks Celtics game, and they had the officials mic'd for sound, and they're sitting there talking. They're going, "Hey, do you know who Jack Harlow is?" "No, I don't know who he is." "Well, apparently that's him over there sitting front row. He's kind of a big deal." So I don't know who he is. Neither do I. By the way, a shout out, Shannon, on the live video feed, Eugene Williams, one of the greatest football players from my era at Holmes High School. He was like all city defensive player, just a total stud. And by the way, and like you, he is a huge Texas Longhorn as well, Shannon. I'm sure he will, Eugene Williams will appreciate your burnt orange Longhorn warm-up. I've never seen Eugene in here before on the live video feed, so I'm excited. And credit to Eugene Williams, he never beat me up in high school. He could have picked me up and thrown me against the lockers with like one hand, and he chose not to. He was always a good guy. So I appreciate that 4 decades later, Shannon.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Eugene. Nice to know you're one of the good guys.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. If you can't see from his it's like kind of small, his profile pic, but he's always like posing with Texas Longhorns, and he's all about your alma mater. So there's that. All right, Shannon, we got a lot that happened over the weekend. The Dallas Cowboys sign a Texas Tech kicker in free agency. Any idea on this guy? And so we're going to have a competition between a Longhorn kicker and a Texas Tech kicker in Cowboy camp, unless another kicker comes into the fold.
Yeah, this Texas Tech kicker, Jonathan Garibay, probably most famous at his time as Texas Tech for doing that 62-yard game-winning field goal versus Iowa State. He was 15 of 16 on the year. The other kicker who you mentioned is from the University of Texas, Chris Nagar. He's kind of floated around the NFL since he made his way into the league. I believe he was with the Cleveland prior to being signed just this offseason by the Dallas Cowboys. I like that. I just get a kicker that's going to be solid throughout the season, Cowboys. I really don't care who you end up using, but I do appreciate that they've actually got a little bit of a competition going so that they do find someone who can get the job done, and that we're not playing this kickers are a dime a dozen game any longer because they're not, and they can make or break a game for you.
Now, do we know what happened to Dicker the kicker in the draft?
We do. I've got that news in the shakedown for you. In the next half hour, I've got some Longhorns draft news for you.
You would expect me to have read your rundown with your items on the shakedown so that I don't jump the gun.
Today's a crazy day.
Amber did, but by the way, Amber, I said no spoilers during the break there, and our friend Amber on the live video feed, she watched episode 9 of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, and she said, you better have your tissues ready. And I said, all right. I said, don't tell us, no spoilers. And the next thing she does is she said what happened.
All right, so tomorrow's the game, the honesty game. All three of us need to watch today, and then you have to be honest if you cry.
Yes.
Or tears well up or whatever.
I cry when the Cowboys lose. I cry, I cry at the drop of a hat. I've watched the movie Field of Dreams 700 times, and I watch it just to see if I can watch it without crying, and I've never been able to. Highly embarrassing.
You sent Jeremy and I a video via our Twitter chat of SVP talking about his dog. I didn't even watch it, Chris. To be honest, I saw it the first 10 seconds. I was like, nope, I know what this is going to be. Not today, Satan. And I turned it off.
Well,
I can't handle
Scott
that.
Van Pelt's dog passed away. No, and if you think it would have made you cry, multiply that times about 27. It was heartfelt, powerful, emotional. Any of us who've ever lost a pet, my God, it got me. And our friend, he joined us last week when you had the fire alarm, so we'll have to bring him back. I saw Don Harris from News 4 San Antonio, the sports director there, tweeted it out, and I said, all right. And he said, got me misty-eyed. It got me more than misty-eyed. I had to be like carried away from the computer screen pretty much. All right. I needed smelling salts after watching that video. All right. Coming up, we will dive back in to the NFL draft as God intended. We'll talk more NBA playoffs. Shannon's Dallas Mavericks taking the court tonight in a big second-round playoff matchup. Trevor Bauer of the Dodgers gets a major suspension, and he's fighting it, baby. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok, your Soundscape Stylist, Paul Alexander at 8:05. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right. Eugene Williams, what is up? The great Eugene Williams. Good to see you, sir. Let's see. You can do the spoiler, Jason. I just, Shannon sends me a list of what she's going to talk about in the Salty Shakedown, and I normally try to, unless it's a huge story that we have to talk about in the first 2.5 segments, I try to be mindful of that. Shannon is asking if the schedule is back to normal. Is that a yes at this point? Okay. Yeah, we got weird technical issues today. So, welcome to our world. Jorge, no, I don't think Tyron Smith is still a, if not at Pro Bowl level. I mean, he can't play a full 17 games apparently, so they will ease this guy in. Word is he's going to play guard to start with, and then eventually, when Tyron Smith retires in a year or two, they will move him. So that's what I'm hearing from multiple credible sources. Where'd my phone go? Man, it has been a weird morning. All right. Yeah, Jorge, I like Luka too. I'm not a big Mavs fan, but you know, and I'm kind of this way with the Longhorns and the Spurs and the Cowboys. You know, if they're eliminated, I'm okay with the Rockets or the Mavericks because they're from Texas advancing. I'm an Astros fan. If the Astros can't have a great season, I'd rather see the Rangers do it. So I'm kind of, and I know Spurs fans, a lot of Spurs fans hate the Mavericks, so that's kind of Spurs blasphemy. Jason, I have not seen Survivor on HBO Max. I know it's very acclaimed. It's on my list. So I've been, we got another streaming service because there's this series called Gaslit, starring Sean Penn and Julia Roberts, playing the roles of Attorney General John Mitchell under Nixon and his wife Martha Mitchell, which I'm old enough to remember those people from when I was a kid. So, but I do need to check that. Hey, Eric, Dylan will be on the show tomorrow. I don't know if you were involved in that. Oh, he did unblock you. Unless I didn't specifically ask him, Eric, he's going to be on the show tomorrow, and I was going to bring it up on tomorrow's show. Maybe he was listening when we talked about it last week. So that's good news. And I wanted to give him crap about that. He sent me some anti-Lincoln Riley dogma. These Oklahoma Sooners can't let go of Lincoln Riley, apparently. Yeah, I won't bring it up now, but here comes the sports update. But you guys can't hear the sports update because when I turn my mic off, you guys don't hear anything. But our sports update is happening right now. All right, we'll be back in a few. Let's see. Amber says, one of the things I love about Winning Time are the camera shots that go from modern to old school views. I know it's so stylistic. And I haven't seen the most recent episode, but the beginning of episode 8 with Dr. Jerry Buss walking in the Fabulous Forum with everybody frozen, the players on the court frozen, the fans frozen in place. And Jerry Buss is just talking to the camera about the 4-minute mile and how, he can do the impossible. It was just so cool. But yeah, I know what you're talking about, where they go from like modern video to like old film footage. It's so stylistic. So again, good morning, Eugene Williams. Good morning, Beth Settle. Welcome in. Good morning, Michelle. But yeah, Jason, I do have to check out Survivor on HBO Max. Started watching, I think it's on Netflix, Pieces of Her. About 3 episodes in. It's pretty good. Wow, look at that. Jason says this week's episode has the best fourth wall break ever. That's interesting. Before I found out he was a dirtbag, Kevin Spacey, the reason I got Netflix was to see Kevin Spacey. Well, what was the name of the Kevin Spacey? House of Cards. The greatest job of breaking the fourth wall ever was Kevin Spacey in House of Cards. Of course, now, just like Will Smith, who has revealed himself as a dirtbag, it's hard for me to watch anything Kevin Spacey now. So do you have the 30-second talk back? Just nod at me if you, okay, we'll probably fire that in this half hour since we've got Salty Shakedown history and birthdays next half, and then we got Paul the next half. So at some point I'll probably ask for it here. Yeah, Hector, that Marilyn Monroe documentary is very, very well done. And it bums me out because I'm a huge Bobby Kennedy fan. And, I always knew that Bobby was suspected by some of being either involved or certainly he and John Kennedy abandoned her. John Williams, I know Gaslit is on Stars. That's where I watched episodes 1 and episode 2 last night. Yes, you are correct. So yeah, that's the latest streaming service we now pay for. But yeah, it got really ugly at the end, and I had always heard those stories about Bobby flew down on Peter Lawford's plane from San Francisco the night of Marilyn Monroe's death and then flew back. without checking on her, apparently. Fred Robert Casares Jr., welcome in.
Tonight, night, day. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a manic Monday in more ways than one on the Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Manic for us. Things are looking better. It's getting better all the time. We've got a few technical issues this morning. But Jeremy Kolok and our crack engineering staff on crack have come together to solve a lot of the problems, put a lot of fires out. Got a little funky on some level where you may have been listening this morning. Thanks for hanging in with us. We certainly do appreciate it. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok, your Soundscape Stylist. An hour from now, in fact, less than an hour from now, about 58 minutes from now, Coach A, Paul Alexander, our football guru. We had Paul on Friday, the day after the first round of the NFL draft. I want to get Paul's take on the Dallas Cowboys now that we know who they got in the draft and free agency. I want to get Paul's take on the Houston Texans, his overall take on the draft. We typically have Paul Alexander on the show on Fridays, but I don't want to wait. Shannon doesn't want to wait. Jeremy doesn't want to wait. And I don't think you want to wait for Coach A, Paul Alexander of radicallyrational.com. You don't have to wait much longer. He'll join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. NBA playoffs, it is getting good. Two tremendous games last night. Bucks, both road teams won. Bucks won in Boston over the Celtics, 101-89. To take a 1-0 lead in that Eastern Conference semifinal series. We talked as well a lot about the Warriors' 1-point win over the Memphis Grizzlies, 117-116, to give the Warriors a 1-0 lead in that Western Conference semifinal series. Same deal tonight. You're going to have a game in the East and a game in the West, both of those on TNT. 76ers at the Miami Heat. A couple of key players out of that one at 6:30 on TNT. Your late game at 9 o'clock tonight, the Dallas Mavericks at the Phoenix Suns. Shannon, why do they do that to you? You're a Mavericks fan, and you got to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. Why do they have the Mavericks at Phoenix at 9 o'clock at night? That's just wrong.
Chris, that is exactly. I got up this morning. I checked last night's scores, and I was like, all right, new day, Mavericks, Monday night. Let's do this. I've already got plans to go to a bar kind of when normal people get off work. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get all the NBA TNT, the intro, and I'll watch first half before I go home because there's a 6:30 slated game. I'm like, that's perfect. But no, Mavericks, Suns, 9 o'clock. I guess Suns being, a little more out west, whatever. It's silly. Mm-hmm. It's just dumb.
Yeah. And again, I go back and forth on these games. Somebody was saying on the live video feed, a Spurs fan saying, I'm not a Mavericks fan, but I really like Luka. So now I'm kind of pulling for the Mavericks. Who said that? That was Jorge Villarreal said, go Mavs, was never a fan until Luka. And it's Spurs blasphemy for some people, Shannon, but I'm kind of this way with Texas teams. My team is the Spurs, but when the Spurs can no longer move forward in the playoffs, I'm okay with the Mavericks or the Rockets. I like Texas teams to succeed. I'm a Longhorn and a UTSA Roadrunner fan in college football, but if they can't win it, I know this is blasphemy for you, but maybe not anymore with the Aggie boyfriend. I'm okay with the Aggies. I want them to go deep in the SEC, and if Texas can't go to the national championship game, I'm happy with the Aggies or Texas Tech or Baylor. I'm an Astros fan first and foremost, but if the Astros can't go deep and the Rangers do, that's okay. I'd rather the Texas team go deep. So Spurs fans will find this Spurs blasphemy, but I kind of like the Mavericks now with Luka. How do you not like Luka? He's cool. And you got Boban. Boban's on your Mavericks. Who doesn't like Boban?
Boban and his commercials have been my favorite part of the Mavs season, I think. Just the State Farm with the coasters. But Boban, because I'm a girl who loves coasters and gets mad too when people don't use coasters appropriately, especially when they're sitting right in front of you. And then the Boban bag for goldfish. I snacked on some goldfish over the weekend and pictured being Boban with a biggie bag because I just had a normal size bag. He's great.
I still say if they sold those Boban coasters, I don't think they do, but if they did, or somebody should actually, the NBA or Boban might come after you. Somebody should actually just get a thing and start selling Boban coasters.
You know what?
Maybe that's maybe that's what we'll because we got two. We're already releasing a music album, Shannon, where one of our songs is going to be Aiden's Mom. It's going to be a remake of Stacy's Mom by Fountains of Wayne. It's about Aiden Hutchinson's mom. Maybe we have a site. I noticed on the Dan Patrick Show they've got you a merch page. So maybe we'll just start a merch page for this show, and our first big item will be our Boban coasters. We'll just put Boban's face on coasters, and if they're not going to sell them, then we'll sell them.
Where Bill Schoening is writing books and stories of his travels and comes up with songs that he records in legitimate studios based on his time around certain NBA players and those travels as well. We are the Weird Al Yankovic of sports songs, I feel like. That's where we're heading.
Yes.
And items.
It's going to be our big thing. And who knows, maybe our band will play at one of Bill Schoening's book signings. Maybe and then Bill does. Maybe Bill will come up and sit in.
Yeah, for a fee. I'll do anything for a fee.
We're not doing it for free, Bill Schoening. You pay the band, baby. What do you take us for? Speaking of Bill Schoening, he joins us every Wednesday at 8:05, and he said last Wednesday that by this week sometime he'll be making announcements. He wrote that book that we've been talking about. It's available on Amazon, and he's going to have a book signing, apparently one in the San Antonio area, one in the Austin area at the very least. So we will have that information for you as it gets closer. Big baseball news over the weekend, Shannon. Trevor Bauer gets popped in a big way. The Dodgers pitcher who had, allegations and civil suits against him for getting involved with two separate women in two separate locations. And the women are alleging that he not only, they were originally apparently consensual encounters, but no other way to put this more delicately than Trevor Bauer apparently likes to do rough things when getting intimate. And one woman alleges that he choked her to the point of unconsciousness, among other things. Trevor Bauer continues to say he is being falsely accused. He wants to fight this, but he received a pretty big suspension from Major League Baseball over the weekend. Shannon, tell us about that, and how do you feel about it?
A 2-year suspension, which equates to 324 games. He's already sat out 99 games, and those will not count as part of that 324. Wow. So an extra, be almost 400 games for Trevor Bauer. As you said, he's trying to fight this now. The criminal charges had been dropped, right?
My understanding is yes, they had.
Okay, so this was just
which makes this all the more interesting.
Yes, just the MLB's investigation, which then in kind of a strange way ties into Deshaun Watson and what could be his fate this season, because
that's a
as
great
we
point.
know, it's a civil case going on with him right now, and all of those women and their allegations against him, and the NFL is doing their own investigation to decide on a punishment, or if they feel that one is necessary, and will they maybe look at this situation with Trevor Bauer and do something similar, because now those comparisons are starting to come out.
That is a heck of a comparison. And so NFL fans, and certainly Cleveland Brown fans, and people who are just interested in the Deshaun Watson situation, that is something to watch. This is a historic ban on Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer, 324 games which will be 2 seasons. It is the longest punishment ever since the baseball instituted a domestic violence policy. So obviously he is going to appeal this. He continues to be defiant and maintain his innocence. And even though there's a lot, and it's a different thing, obviously, than Deshaun Watson. But again, Shannon, I always come back to where there's smoke, there's fire. There's 2 women in 2 separate cities making very similar allegations about Trevor Bauer. So, and you got to wonder if Major League Baseball is doing this, what did they find in their allegation? And even if, and what Trevor Bauer is saying is, oh, this is consensual. These women, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything that wasn't asked for. He's essentially saying, these women wanted it rough. I'm guessing A, baseball found something, and B, baseball, and I think rightfully so, this is not good for baseball. You're selling tickets to families and kids. And if you've got a guy out there, not only with these allegations, but even if he's saying, oh yeah, we did this and it was consensual, it's just an ugly, ugly look for baseball. Going to be fascinating to see if he does score any points in appeal, and maybe he takes baseball to court if he truly believes in his innocence.
Well, and with the suspension being as long as it is, 324 games, 2 seasons worth, if he appeals and they're like, okay, we'll tone it back a little bit, we're not going to just get rid of it. But what, that's still, what are the 320 games. How about that? I don't know that it's either going to be all or nothing. I feel like when he does go with this fight against the MLB.
We will certainly keep an eye on that. We'll talk a little more baseball a little bit later as the Houston Astros drop 2 out of 3 in Toronto to the Blue Jays. You add that to the 3-game series where they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Blue Jays at Minute Maid Park in Houston a week earlier. So they go 2-4 against the Blue Jays thus far this season. Blue Jays, very good team, one of the favorites in the American League. So something to keep an eye on there. We haven't yet mentioned this morning, Shannon, we've got some audio that already came in. Our live video, the iHeart Radio app, where we're always crystal clear. Some people were reporting earlier, we had a couple of glitches in the 6 o'clock hour that Jeremy Kolok and our engineering staff fixed pretty quickly. But if you ever have an issue with us on the live video feed, or if you're in a spot listening on AM radio and it doesn't sound perfect, we always sound crystal clear on the free iHeart Radio app. You either listen via AM 1300 The Zone out of Austin or Ticket 760 out of San Antonio. And one of the cool new features there is a little microphone button at the bottom of the screen. You press that. It's called a talkback button. You can leave us instant feedback. We may specifically ask you a question, or you can just sound off whatever's on your mind, good or bad. We want to hear from you. We hear it instantly. As soon as you hit send, we get it. And we play it on the air. And I understand, Shannon, we already got a talkback message this morning. Let's go ahead and listen to it.
Hey, this is Eric, the Houston fan, and I just wanted to take a few seconds and just make sure that those radio listeners knew about the Facebook side of the show. It's so fun. There's so much more to the show going on during the breaks. You get to hang out with Chris, Shannon, and Jeremy, talk junk. It's like a bunch of wiseacres in the back of the classroom just having fun, and it's such a cool interactive experience. So just want to make sure people know about it. Thanks.
Wow. Eric, the Houston fan, full name Eric Winchester. Shannon, if we were going to write a promo, I don't know that we could have written it better than that for the video, the live video feed. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and shout out to Eric. That talkback came in at 6:04 this morning. So he jumped on before we even went live with the show. He already knew about the talkback feature. But if you send it anywhere between 6 to 9, it goes directly to our show. So it'll let us know that you are purposefully trying to talk to us. If you send it during Mike Taylor's show, he's going to get it and think that it's for him. So make sure you're doing it within those hours if you want to make sure we get it and listen to it. But thank you so much for that. I mean, getting up first thing in the morning and people want to talk to us, Chris, it's pretty cool.
That's way cool. And what Eric said, if you're new to the show or if you haven't done the live video feed, it is you're not only interacting with us, not only when we're on the air, but even during the breaks. You know, we just keep it going and we keep talking. But there's people from across Texas and around the world who are on the live video feed who are not only interacting with us, but interacting amongst themselves. It's a cool thing. And just another way you can get in touch with the show. So you've got the live video feed via Facebook Live, Twitter, or YouTube. You've got what Eric just used, the free iHeartRadio app and the talkback feature if you want to talk back to us. Otherwise, you can just listen crystal clear. You can also do it on a smart device. You know, when I'm home, I've got the Amazon Echoes in the house. So I just say, yeah, Alexa, play either AM 1300 The Zone or Alexa play Ticket 760, and it'll just play it right away via the iHeartRadio app. Or if you want to dial us up on the phone lines, we always love getting your phone calls. 800-707-9760, 800-707-9760. Shannon, we talked about your Dallas Mavericks in action tonight as they will be in their game taking on the Phoenix Suns at Phoenix. What do you think the odds are? Yesterday, both road teams won game one. It's going to be a tall order in Phoenix, but Phoenix had a little bit of trouble with New Orleans. How do you feel about the Mavericks going to the Footprint Center in Phoenix to try to steal game one tonight?
I feel okay. You know, I think much like that Warriors and Grizzlies game, it's going to be important that the Mavs put their best foot forward and try and get game one. There looks like right now 5.5 points in favor of the Suns, which, you know, if Luka's on fire, if everyone's playing the way they should for the Mavs, I'm not sure where we are with Devin Booker and the Suns, but you would hope that, you know, for Mr. Perfect Chris Paul, his 14 for 14, that was not a fluke because he's obviously a great player, but that's not something that he will necessarily repeat in this series. I feel a little bit like Jeremy with his Grizzlies and the Warriors, and that I don't really foresee my team coming out on the other side of the series, but I would love for it to be a great series and a great battle. I don't want to see a Bucks Boston score tomorrow morning when I wake up with this game being at 9 o'clock. I would like to see that it's close, that it's a battle, and that we'll get some good rallying going on here.
Should be a great game tonight. That is the late game, as we mentioned, a 9 o'clock start on TNT. That first game is 76ers at the Miami Heat. By the way, the lines for tonight's game, Phoenix favored by 5.5 points at home over the Mavericks. Now, in the early game, the Miami Heat favored by 7.5 points. Each team has a significant player out for that game, most significantly the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid, last time I checked, was going to be out for the Sixers. I think that's why you've got the big 7.5 point spread there. And Shannon, we've talked about the Miami Heat, and, you know, with the Pat Riley's roots that go all the way back to the Lakers, and we see a lot of Pat Riley on Winning Time at the beginning of his coaching career. It looks like, you know, the Heat with this big point spread favored to take game number one against the 76ers. Sixers would love it if James Harden and company could rise up and get a win on the road tonight against the Heat, but Vegas doesn't expect it to happen.
No, and you know that I think we're okay with that. You know, James Harden, I'm a little tired of him. I almost would like his 76ers issue to fail. We were talking about Boban and his State Farm commercials. That's the one thing I love, is that Boban was swapped in for James Harden, who is no longer a part of those and that series. And you know, the 76ers, I don't know, man. And Doc Rivers, do we think they're going to get to keep him no matter what they do? Because his name is being tossed around a lot to maybe go back out west. And I could see him doing that after all the drama that he's endured being the head coach of the 76ers.
It has been a lot of drama, and you got to wonder about Doc Rivers. Now, when you hear that he might go out west, is that for the Lakers or for the Clippers? What are you hearing about Doc Rivers?
Well, potentially his
Lakers
name
is going to be fascinating.
was for the Lakers, right? And we talked about, gosh, now his name is slipping my mind, where he had coached previously, but he's being thrown in for the Kings now.
Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson, yeah, that he might have been a Lakers pick, but that the Kings are looking a little bit more into him. I don't know. LeBron is in the Maldives right now with his family on a private island, so it's like until GM LeBron comes back, we probably won't get a clearer view.
I did not realize that LeBron is in the Maldives. I did not keep up with LeBron James, the King, over the weekend to see where he might be vacationing. So that's very, very interesting. All right, coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown for a manic Monday morning. Always very, very exciting. We've also got sports birthdays, sports history. Can't wait for the top of the hour either. Coach A, Paul Alexander, our go-to guy on all things NFL draft, Dallas Cowboys and Houston Texans. His thoughts on the Cowboys draft, the Texans draft, and the NFL. And throughout this morning, as we've had a couple of technical issues, don't forget, you can always hear this show glitch-free and crystal clear on the free iHeartRadio app. So if you got any kind of an issue with some of our technical issues, which Jeremy Kolok and our crack engineering team on crack is working feverishly to fix, just pull up that free iHeartRadio app, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on your smart device, and it sounds crystal clear. It's a little frightening how good it sounds. When I listen to these stations, I mean, it doesn't sound like AM radio. It sounds like we're in the room with you, which is a little bit of a frightening thought. Don't go anywhere. Lots more coming at you. We are all over the NFL draft, the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, and more. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show.
When hearts like ours meet.
Want to win $1,000? Well, we hope you've trained those fingers to spring into action every hour from 9 to 5 weekdays. Listen for the keywords, then enter them on our website for your chance to get $1,000 in your hand.
Brought to you by Price Chrysler Dodge Ram Jeep.
The price is always right at Price Chrysler Dodge Ram Jeep. Not only when you buy, but also when you sell.
All right. Jason, I don't know when that's going to be. I got to talk to James, but he did say May. I think Memorial Day might be difficult. I don't know.
On Ticket 760.
Shakedown, but coming up before the Salty Shakedown, we've got sports birthdays and this day in sports history. May 2nd, 1920 was the first game of the National Negro Baseball League. It was played in Indianapolis, Indiana. A lot of history there, and thank goodness after all these years, finally, those baseball players, those records being recognized. It's still a shame that segregation kept baseball from integrating until Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. This day in 1939, New York Yankee Lou Gehrig ended his consecutive game streak at 2,130 as the New York Yankees beat the Detroit Tigers 22-2. This day in 1968, it was the 22nd NBA championship. It was game number 6, and the Boston Celtics closed out the Lakers to win the title 4-2. Jerry West may or may not have gone into an alcoholic, swearing, crazed rage and threw something through a window. We don't know, but we don't think he did. But if we did a drama, we might add that. This day in 1978, with the first pick of the 1978 NFL draft, the Houston Oilers select running back Earl Campbell from the University of Texas. That kind of worked out well. And finally, on this day in 1988, Cincinnati Reds manager Pete Rose was suspended for 30 days, not for gambling, for pushing an umpire. Things would get worse for Pete Rose. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1953. He's featured, but you got to pick him out. He's not one of the main characters in Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Jamal Wilkes, who started his career with the Golden State Warriors, where he was Rookie of the Year in 1975 before making his way over to the Lakers. Jamal Wilkes was born in Berkeley, California. Born on this day in 1975, soccer legend, English soccer midfielder, and now soccer owner of Miami FC. David Beckham was born in London, England on this day in 1975. And finally, born on this day in 1985, NASCAR racer, NASCAR Cup Series champion in 2015, Kyle Busch was born in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your Manic Monday Salty Shakedown. Whoa. That is crazy. And as you mentioned, Shannon, second time since 1938 that no Longhorns go in the NFL draft. I mean, it is such a brand. And you look historically at the Longhorns in the draft. They're one of the top schools, almost perennial in every draft as far as getting Longhorns drafted. I think it's certainly an indictment of the two previous head coaches on the 40 acres before Coach Sark. And I got to believe that happier days are on the way now that the Sark era is 1 year down. And with each passing year, more and more of those players on that Longhorn roster will be Coach Sark players. But that is some stunning news. UTSA with a couple of players in this draft and no Longhorns. Who'd have thunk that? That's pretty mind-blowing. Oh my God. Oh, you put it on a wall. You build your own museum, or you get like a huge safe deposit box, an oversized safe deposit box. I'm glad. I had no idea as well, Shannon. You mentioned the Jackie Robinson jersey going for over $4 million at auction. I'm just glad. I did the story in sports history about today being the anniversary of the first Negro League game in Indianapolis. I'm just glad that baseball and baseball collectors, are appreciating just the historic, courageous contribution to the game and to all sports that Jackie Robinson made. But you're right about as far as like how expensive any bat is. I used to do TV commercials for a company called Baseball America. And again, I was never a big baseball player. I was a baseball fan. I never really played. I didn't play little league ball. I didn't play organized baseball. I played street baseball. But yeah, I would go through and just look at, batting helmets and bats and uniforms and all kinds of gear. I was amazed at how expensive all baseball gear, including baseball bats, are modern day. It's a big business. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Whoa. It's a great question, and it makes me wonder if that's just a storyline that maybe Shaq and the producers came up with for Urban Eats and Treats, just to say, all right, it'll be more interesting and more dramatic if you're trying to be a vegan and you're working. Because I mean, from a financial standpoint, you mentioned all of his big businesses, including Shaq's Big Chicken. I mean, even if he was going to go vegan, I mean, that's not good for business. I mean, the food businesses that he's involved in, it just makes me wonder. It's something to keep an eye on. I mean, I know a number of vegans. I've aspired to at least have a vegetarian diet. Just philosophically, I get it. Wouldn't it be nice if we could minimize the number of animals that we have to consume? But very, very interesting that Shaq of all people would do this. I think it's something we need to learn more about. Woo! Outstanding salty shakedown. And don't ever say Shannon phones it in on the salty shakedown. Someone's going, oh, you just phoned that one in, Shannon. Well, hey, shut up. She did not phone it in. Well, sort of. It was on the phone, but You didn't phone it in, Shannon. There's a big difference between doing the salty shakedown on the phone, and you certainly didn't phone it in. Yes, exactly. And our people are calling all kinds of people, and Jeremy's people are calling radio engineers, and people are pulling their hair out. Which is, speaking of the Moody Center, did we hear anything? I saw the big event. George Strait opening the Moody Center over the weekend, along with, of course, Willie Nelson on his birthday Friday night. Willie and family. I saw people who were there posting video, posting still photos of the stage and everything. Looked like it was a success. Did you hear anything in Austin? Yeah, 18 nights from now on May 20th is when I go to the Moody Center to see the Eagles. So I'm very excited about that. So should be, and of course, and Shannon, I'm writing it down, man. Shaq's Big Chicken. I'm going to make first stop, of course, beer. I wonder how much beer, like at Jerry World, beer is insane. Like $16 or something. I wonder how much beer goes for at the sparkling new Moody Center. That would be nice. Hopefully, they have beer at Shaq's Big Chicken. I would feel so much better about that. Well, Shannon, coming up, we could not do this show in the same way we couldn't do Friday's show without Coach A. Paul Alexander of RadicallyRational.com, his analysis of round one. Now, all the picks are in, as you've described. I also want to get his thoughts, as you mentioned, Longhorns, nobody in the draft from Texas. Paul's a huge Texas Longhorn guy, covered the Longhorns up in Austin for a number of years, was the original creator of the radio show Longhorn Pipeline. So I want to get his thoughts on that, his thoughts on the Cowboys, his thoughts on the Texans as well. So coming up in the very next segment, we've got a sports update coming your way at the top of the hour. Then we will dive right into the NFL draft, all things NFL draft with Coach A. Paul Alexander, including free agency, people who picked up some key free agents after the draft on Sunday. So don't go anywhere. Shannon Salty Sweeney, she never phones it in. She might be on the phone, but she never phones it in, nor does Paul Alexander. Jeremy Kolok is your Soundscape Stylist. We will talk all things NFL draft. We will dive back into the NBA playoffs. Yesterday's two big games, tonight's two big games as well. Astros, Major League Baseball, and more. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. No, my mic is not on mute. I have to press another button, which is the over-the-air button, for that to work. So as you can tell, we've got all kinds of sound and technical issues. So again, if you want to hear the show better, I highly recommend the iHeartRadio app, especially today. All right. Paul Alexander coming. I'm going to go talk to Jeremy and just see where we are on this segment as far as the technical issues. Again, radio app, better sound. And I'll write Shannon, but maybe on her first question to Paul, either I'll set it up or she should ask Paul, can you hear me? So rather than sit through a long question. Yeah, we got the problem may be fixed now. It may not. I got to write a little note here to Shannon. All right. Well, this has been a fun morning. All right, we'll see. We'll see if this works. Jeremy is calling Paul Alexander. Let's see. There's that. Woo! Here we go. Going to mute for a moment at the top. Going to kind of halfway assume things might be back to normal. We'll find out.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
to the other.
Now, Chris Duel.
What a sports weekend. NFL draft, then a whole bunch of undrafted free agents finding homes in the National Football League immediately following the draft. NBA playoffs moving into the second round. Both road teams winning in the NBA yesterday. That would be the Bucks winning at Boston and then the Golden State Warriors winning at Memphis. We are all over the NFL draft, the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, and more. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. And how could we look at this NFL draft now that we know everyone who was drafted? How could we do this without Coach A, Paul Alexander, our football guru from radicallyrational.com? And the answer was we could not do this on a Monday without Paul Alexander. He has been kind enough to join us as he did on Friday, as he often does whenever we can grab him. We want to talk football and more with Paul Alexander. Paul, how are you on this Monday morning?
Doing well, Chris, Shannon, Jeremy, always a pleasure. And what a treat to be on a Monday and in the 8 o'clock hour. Life is good.
Yeah, well, the treat is ours. When I texted you yesterday and you said you could do it, we were also thrilled to be able to get your perspective on the draft for the Cowboys, for the Texans, and beyond. First of all, your overall impressions on this draft.
It's a brand new world in the NFL. You know, it wasn't that long ago that GMs and coaches thought they had 5-year plans. You now have a 5-minute plan. And it's exciting. I think it's very dynamic. It's great for fans. And there's a better chance of your team turning around for the better in a hurry. So I got no complaints at all, but this is not your daddy's NFL.
Hey, Coach, just want to make sure you can hear me first because we were having some technical difficulties this morning.
Sounds like you, and you sound technically perfect.
Oh, thank you so much. This draft kind of made fools of a lot of people who came out with mock drafts this year because it seemed like a lot of guys kept falling and falling. Some that were believed to be draftable going as undrafted free agents. Is there anybody in this draft you felt like was an absolute steal for a team?
I don't know about steal, but I do think that because of what you're referencing, I mean, what we had, it was a total of 16 trades in the first 2 rounds, and we had unusual runs at certain position groups. You had the edge rushers first, followed by the offensive linemen, followed by the receivers, followed by defensive backs a little bit. There are some people that I really like, including one on the Cowboys that I think is just a pivotal player. This draft does not work for Dallas unless Sam Williams, the edge rusher from Ole Miss, is a football player. This doesn't work unless he can produce.
Well, and to that point, Paul, tell us about Sam Williams and how you think he will do coming out of Ole Miss, and why do you say that it hinges on him in this draft for the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, because they've got to have a pass rush, and they have some holes to fill, and they don't have a luxury of bringing a guy along slowly at all. Now, the good news is that Sam Williams, at least reputationally, has a reputation as kind of a wild bull rider, barroom wrecker. Let's try to do that within the laws of the United States, but he has to produce, and he's got to play right away, or they have a void they're not going to be able to fill. And also Jalen Tolbert, the third guy they took, the wide receiver out of South Alabama, ditto, and a guy that I think is a really enlightened choice. When they took Jake Ferguson, the tight end out of Wisconsin, he's a player, and they now need depth at tight end.
Now, Coach, when we talked to you on Friday, you were very pleased with what the Houston Texans did, saying that they were having a near perfect draft considering their situation. I was with some friends over the weekend. They thought, well, I don't know. They're Houston Texans fans, so they didn't feel the same as you, I guess, because no one really flashy. They appeared to land on that squad. But now that we've been through the draft as a whole, how are you looking at that Houston Texans draft?
I was excited Friday morning, and I'm 4 times more excited now. Now, a lot of things have to fall into place. You got to hit. And I'll be the first to admit that the Texans, in a sense, couldn't mess up because they needed everything. And they had this unprecedented draft capital available as a result of the Watson trade. But every single one of these guys makes sense to me. I don't know why people aren't doing cartwheels over Derek Stingley Jr. You know, I know there was that thing, is he better or is Sauce better? All I know is I know who Lovie Smith thought was better, so I'm happy with that. I have been just evangelical about Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman out of Texas A&M, since the first time I really got into tape of that guy. That's everything you could want. Now, let me preface the next thing by saying Baylor still nasty. You understand? Baylor still nasty. But the truth be told, I was probably as impressed with the safety from Baylor, Jalen Petrie, as I was any college football player last year. That guy has a football IQ that is just off the charts and apparently is an absolutely solid citizen. That's good. All right, and now you want to talk about a steal? They get the wide receiver from Alabama, John Mechie III. Understand, if he doesn't wreck his ACL in the SEC title game, that guy's a top dozen pick. And the Texans are able to get him in the 40s. And, you know, ACLs aren't quite as scary as they used to be. And I give, you know, medicine and scientific technology and better rehab methods all the credit. But not only is he going to be okay, he says he's ahead of schedule. He says he'll be right there in training camp. And I love a guy that uses this term. He says, I'll be ready to go without training wheels. You go back and look at this guy. I mean, this guy is an absolute dragster, and he is so fluid. And the Texans really needed that top-end threat speed-wise in their offense to take the top off the defense. You get a linebacker out of Alabama, so you know he's well coached in Christian Harris. You get a running back that has a reputation of really running with a tude, Damian Pierce from Florida. In my mind, there's just nothing not to like here, and there are no guarantees. But in terms of how it impacts their season and how much improvement they can achieve in a relatively short period of time, I think the Texans did astoundingly well. About the only other team that I think may have done a little bit better, and it's hard to believe that we see competence from the New York Jets, but they displayed rare competence. That's a really good draft.
My goodness. He is Coach A, Paul Alexander from RadicallyRational.com. And just sticking with the Texans for just a little longer, Paul, then we'll dive back into the Cowboys. You look at just the schools that they drafted from, you know, 2 guys from LSU, starting with Derek Stingley. You mentioned the 2 players from Alabama, the wide receiver and the linebacker, Kenyon Green, whom you love, from Texas A&M. Looks like they were really enjoying the SEC, and maybe it's that way for every team. Paul, is it just that, you know, the brand of football that you play in the SEC? Do you think overall, and I know it's a generalization, but do you think the SEC is probably preparing these players for the NFL draft maybe a little bit better than the other conferences in college football?
Chris, I just do. There's a reason why generalizations become generalization and stereotypes become stereotypes. It's, you know, that saying they have in the SEC that drives fans of a lot of conferences crazy. It's just better in the SEC. I'm sorry, they say that because it's just better in the SEC. And if you think there's a gap now, you wait till you see the next generation of college football with the transfer portal and NIL. The gap is just going to get wider.
Well, as you say that, Coach, we discussed earlier, Georgia 15 go off the board in this draft compared to Texas, who has yet to make that official jump to the SEC. who did not have any draftees this year. 6 went as undrafted free agents, but for the second time since 1938, no one from the University of Texas was selected in the NFL draft. What does that say for the program as they try to move forward with the Sark era and that move to the SEC?
Let me start with this, and it's one of these things about the football program at Texas, which I dearly love, that just makes me want to claw my eyeballs out. Every single year, we hear these breathless reports about this, not just 5-star recruiting class. This is, I don't know, it's a 14-star recruiting class. And it's going on again. How much actual talent do they have? They did not have one dude drafted in 7 rounds, let alone a first rounder or something like that. So the expectations are outsized because the evaluation of the talent is outsized. And I'm going to say this too. This reputation that the Texas program is getting for being soft, for being all about 6th Street and not about football, that plays a role in this.
Now, all right, Coach, how much of that, now that the Sark era has been around for a year, and granted, I would imagine most Longhorn fans and alums not happy with the result of year one, but it was just year one, and most of those players were not Steve Sarkisian's players. How confident are you that this can be turned around now under the Sark era? Do they recognize, do you think, that not only the reputation for seeming soft, but the level of play and the lack of success most recently in the NFL draft?
Sark's a smart guy. He gets it. Now he's going to have to do something about it. And there's an institutional culture there. There's an inertia there that's been going on for, decades, actually, that he's going to have to reverse. The thing that's going to be difficult, and not just for Texas, but for everybody in Power 5 conferences, you're going to have to spend all of your time right now reloading your roster. You're going to lose people every day. You're going to be searching the transfer portal every day. One of the things that people always said they preferred about college football over the pros, at least the guys are there for a while and I know who they are, as opposed to the revolving door you have in the NFL. All right, the NFL from a personnel standpoint is going to be much more stable than college football going forward. And here's the problem when you're recruiting guys who all think they're 14-star recruits. If a guy's not starting from day one, he's out of there, which means you're never going to have any quality depth, and you're never going to be able to coach your team the way you want to because they actually control you to a much greater degree than you control them. But even in things just like installation of your philosophy and your playbook on both sides of the ball, that's going to be much more difficult now.
Coach, wanted to get your thoughts, as you are the most rational person that we know. Trevor Bauer suspended for 2 years, 324 total games by the MLB for the accusations against some of his behavior during intimate moments with women. People are now kind of relating that to Deshaun Watson and wondering if the NFL might look at what the MLB did and follow suit, just based on the comparisons that can be made between the two. Your thoughts on Trevor Bauer's suspension and how that might end up relating to Deshaun Watson and what the NFL does with him?
Well, the subject matter is generically similar, but the details of what we know are markedly different. And let me just say this, not for prurient reasons, but because I figured I better be informed. I've read all the details on the Trevor Bauer thing. That's not Audrey, that's Tawdry. So I'm not sure that Mighty Manfred had a choice there. Now, do I think, because it is such a volatile subject matter and should be, do I think that could impact the Watson thing? I do. I don't think it's going to be a comp. I don't think he's going to get 2 years, but I'm going to re-raise the possibility, and I've said this from the jump. It's a given that the Jolly Roger is going to sit him down. And I think more people than not are thinking 6-8 games. If he wipes the 2022 season off the books for Watson, I will not be the least bit surprised.
Wow, gonna be absolutely fascinating. He is Coach A, Paul Alexander from Radically Rational, doing a bonus segment with us on this Monday, as he usually joins us on Fridays. But we're talking NFL draft and more with Paul Alexander. I do want to dive back into the Dallas Cowboys for a moment, Paul. You said, and I agree with you, on Friday that this Dallas Cowboys roster, is regressing. On opening day this coming season, the roster will not be as good as it was when they went into that playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers and lost in their first round of the playoffs. Jerry Jones said something interesting, going into this draft over the weekend. I think he might have even said it after round one, that he believes that, when this draft and when free agency is over, that the Cowboys will return to a level where they are as good as or better, roster-wise than they were a year ago. Now, we know that Jerry Jones is a great salesman and it would have even been a very good snake oil salesman. Looking at this draft, and you characterized it earlier, by saying, things like it will hinge on linebacker Sam Williams of Ole Miss delivering the goods along with others, like Jalen Tolbert of South Alabama. Are you more or less confident in the playoff future of the Dallas Cowboys than you were before we went into this draft?
I want to really be careful here because I don't want anybody to think that I'm sour on this draft. They drafted good football players. And I think a lot of people, perhaps myself included, are being a little tough on Tyler Smith. Okay, he's a good football player. So I look at these draft choices, and I don't have a pick or a quarrel with any one of those selections. But in terms of that draft class's ability to materially impact the 2022 season, right now I just don't see it. And yeah, we've got free agency continuing, but that's been picked over pretty well. So, we often hear the current president say it's not hyperbole. Okay, well, Jerry Jones, as usual, is being Jerry Jones and is getting involved in some hyperbole here. There is zero chance that on paper, and I'll just leave it at that the Cowboys roster is not going to be as good as it was a year ago. And the first rule in pro football, the first thing you got to do is control your division and make sure that you're always making incremental progress vis-a-vis your division. So there's not the slightest question in my mind that the Cowboys, although they can be a very good football team, talent-wise, they're not as good as they were a year ago. The Eagles are much better than they were a year ago, and they were getting pretty good. The Giants had an amazing draft, and even the Commanders seem to have found their way out of the dark a little bit. So I'm not saying Dallas is not going to make the playoffs, not saying they're not going to win the NFC East. I don't know. All I know is that horse race is much closer than it was at this time last year.
All right, final question, Paul. I know it's way too early, but as you describe, Cowboys not as good roster-wise as they were a year ago. Eagles better than they were a year ago. Giants better. Commanders better. The way too early Monday, March 2nd pick. Do you pick the Cowboys to win the NFC East right now, or might you be swayed to pick Eagles?
Of those four teams right now, in this stage of development, I think the Cowboys still overall maybe have a little bit of a roster talent edge. So a lot of this depends on how all this comes together with this rookie class, with the draft class, with the acquisitions that they've made. I am concerned for a variety of reasons about the receiving core, not because of the talent level, but just because of the level of cohesion that they can achieve by week one, which I don't think is absolutely great. The one thing we know about the Eagles, and this was apparent the back half of last season, they play like rabid badgers. And the Cowboys don't always do that week to week. But if I had to pick a team to win the NFC East right now, I would still ride with Dallas.
All right. I will hang my hat on that and continue to hope that these draft picks overperform and take care of business. Paul, as always, much appreciated. And as I always do, and as we do, we highly recommend your website, radicallyrational.com. And one of so many things I like about it, Paul, but what I always have fun with is your videos each day to see what T-shirt you are in. This morning, one of my favorites, Peace, Love, and Science T-shirt, which is certainly worth a look. What will people find if they head over to your website, radicallyrational.com, this morning?
Well, I've got some more NFL draft analysis on the sports blog, and I just kind of waxed rhapsodic about how much I enjoyed that NBA game yesterday between the Warriors and the Grizzlies. It's kind of fun not to have a dog in the fight, but I enjoy watching them play. I wish they were playing a best of 11 series. It was that good. And then on the news side, something that really is kind of a wishbone, a chicken bone that's stuck in my throat right now. I've about had it with people portraying themselves as victims when they are, in fact, the oppressors who are victimizing others.
Paul Alexander, there's always a lot to digest and a lot to unpack at his website. It is outstanding. radicallyrational.com. Paul, you made our morning. We did not want to go through the day after the draft was complete without your perspective, and you gave us a lot to think about and a lot to consider. We look forward to talking with you this Friday as well, and we hope you're available for that. Thanks so much for taking the time this morning. We appreciate it.
Guys, it was so much fun. And you know who I felt the sorriest for over draft weekend? Sam Howell's girlfriend. She was about to cry.
Ooh, there you have it. Wow. Paul Alexander of radicallyrational.com. He'll join us on Friday. We hope, unless something weird happens. And it's been a weird morning technically, but Paul, always outstanding. And you can always get all kinds of content at radicallyrational.com. As we roll forward, we will dive into all the stories. We'll talk a little bit more about that Scott Van Pelt dog video. We'll probably retweet that out so you can take a look at it. And Texas baseball. Longhorns played Oklahoma State over the weekend, and that seventh inning was remarkable, and we'll tell you why as well. NFL draft, NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, and more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok, putting out fires and making the show go all morning long. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Our thanks to Paul. Now, I don't know if you hear me, if I have to push that button or not, but we'll find out. Jason says, Paul for president. All right. I'm going to run down the hall and grab some ice. I'll be right back.
future will be amazing. And that's a lot of good. But what about today? You can feel the rush of a 400 horsepower Nissan City, or climb to new heights in the all-terrain Nissan Frontier. Light up the road in the all-electric Nissan Ariya that feels like a sci-fi dream come true. The future will be great, but today is made for thrill. All you have to do is get in a Nissan and drive. Price entry on is completely not available for purchase and special availability to purchase price entry is also free entry on.
Jake from State Farm here. Some other car insurance companies are increasing their rates in your state. But don't worry, if your bill's gone up, switch to State Farm for surprisingly great rates. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or visit statefarm.com for a quote today.
Woo! Woo!
Your apron's crisp, barbecue utensils polished, chicken properly spiced. It's grilling season. So pick up the smoky wood-fired flavor barbecue lovers crave. Kingsford Original Charcoal. Kingsford Original Charcoal is ready in 15 minutes and provides consistent burn time for a great cook every time. So whether you're smoking meat, grilling vegetables, or firing up the portable, you want Kingsford Original Charcoal. Kingsford.com.
All right. DQ Tran or DQ Tron suggesting It's Gonna Be May by Justin Timberlake. Shannon is a huge Justin Timberlake fan, as you may know. She would probably approve of that message. Let me see here. Is that an NSYNC song, Jason? I guess so. Woo! Woo! Here we come. Woo!
And as long as I got my suit and tie,
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Welcome in. I see Shannon moving and grooving to that tune. Shannon, you seem to approve of this song by presented for your approval by Jeremy Kolok.
Justin Timberlake will always be approved in any forms.
Okay, now help me out. Help me out. What song is this?
Suit and Tie
Suit and Tie
with Jay-Z.
Now somebody suggested. Say again. Okay, now somebody suggested "It's Gonna Be May" by Justin Timberlake or NSYNC. Would that have been a choice for today on the 2nd of May?
It was certainly a choice over the weekend by a lot of people. I got all the memes sent my way. But yeah, that's the popular thing.
I had Timberlake queued up before I even saw those comments. So whoever had that first comment about Timberlake, we're just on the same wavelength this morning. Me, Shannon, and the comment section.
DQ Tran or DQ Tron, TRAN on Facebook. Woo!
Yeah, Max Martin.
Speaking of being on the same wavelength, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Max Martin, who has wrote nearly every pop song of the 90s and early 2000s. It's going to be me being one of them, but he continues to make hits today. But you listen to a lot of those songs he wrote for NSYNC, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys. The stylistics, there's so many songs where they say May instead of me, just so it stuck with the rhyme scheme. So that's become a very popular tradition come the end of April.
We could just play all May songs where they say May instead of me. By the way, tomorrow on the show, Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, he's going to join us at 8:05 tomorrow. He'll be among our guests on tomorrow's show. He's always entertaining, enlightening. And Shannon, he's always sending me like anti-Lincoln Riley propaganda. He sent me something over the weekend, how Lincoln Riley is being investigated for tampering with a Pittsburgh wide receiver, University of Pittsburgh wide receiver who entered the transfer portal, and that it's going to rain all these sanctions down on you. OU people can't just let it go. He left you.
Yeah.
I know. He's a bad man. You don't like him. I get it.
And you think he's all of a sudden these are new tactics he's using because he's at USC? Yeah. I don't think so. If that is true.
Yeah, he was a good guy when he was a Sooner. He never tampered when he was a Sooner.
He's probably a better human being now that he's out in LA. Normal people.
He's more tan.
Whatever happens in Norman. Oh, for
probably. Sure. Yeah. And again, we mentioned this earlier. After the show, Shannon, you and Jeremy and I, our homework assignment every Monday is and we've only got 2 more because there's only 2 more episodes left. The latest episode 9 of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. And earlier in the program on the live video feed, Amber said, have your tissues ready for that one. So just fair warning. It's going to be a tearjerker, apparently.
Not me. I'm power through.
You're going to
tough about it.
Power right through that? Yes. Well, and we've brought this up earlier as well. Speaking of tearjerkers, this Scott Van Pelt video about his dog that he would always, after doing his television sports gig, he would go home to this dog, and we saw video of the dog, photos of the dog, and apparently the dog passed away. And, Sports Center is not supposed to make us cry. There's no crying in Sports Center. That's all I'm saying. But I guess there is now.
Yeah.
There's no crying in baseball. Exactly. Or Sports Center. But yeah, it made me cry. I'm probably going to be a basket case watching whatever's on Winning Time now. So
it's not going to be good, like going into it knowing this and waiting for that moment.
I know. Yeah, I kind of, this is why we don't like spoilers.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I provided a spoiler. I was just passing along some information. So
I'm just saying.
Thank you, OJ. OJ, I'll bet you OJ doesn't cry when he sees this episode.
Did he
Just a
even
thought.
cry when he was on trial? Did he even try to act like he didn't do it?
I think he forced some tears, and I think I saw him a little misty-eyed when the jury did acquit him. If the glove don't
Yes,
fit, you
that
must
part,
acquit.
yeah.
He looked over and nodded at the jury. I think he was a little misty-eyed. So Juice may have a heart after all.
Tiger Sashimi.
Exact. That's what I'm talking about. Whatever that, I still don't know what that was, but thank you. Okay. Odell Beckham Jr. and Deebo Samuel making headlines over the weekend. What do we know about OBJ and the very disgruntled Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, so as we know, Odell Beckham Jr., he scores a touchdown in the Super Bowl and then is quickly injured almost in the next series, has surgery following that win. And I don't know, maybe he's just been spending too much time on the couch because for whatever reason, during the NFL draft over the weekend, he tweeted out that Deebo Samuels was heading to the Patriots. That was quickly disputed and shut down by nearly NFL reporter on the planet, specifically with the backing of the current cap space availability in New England, $200K. That's not enough for Deebo. He wants a little bit more than that. I don't know where or why OBJ thought, this will be fun. Maybe he is just trying to stir the pot a little bit. I don't know what his relationship is with Deebo Samuels or, because they're obviously 49ers, Rams in that same division. But how weird.
Yeah. That is weird. I don't know. Jeremy, any theory on why OBJ would tweet that out?
I do have a theory for y'all.
Nice.
If you happen to go to Odell Beckham Jr.'s Instagram or really any of his social medias, I think you will see that he had a baby introduced into his world rather recently. I don't know how long ago, but he's a rather new dad, a new father. So my theory is that this man is just straight up sleep deprived and he doesn't know what he's tweeting. And that was probably a little bit similar to how you are, Chris, on the morning after a late Spurs game coming in here to do our morning show. That's my theory.
I've been known to send out, really weird tweets when I'm sleep deprived. That's a very good theory. Luckily, I've never, had a child. I mean, luckily for any potential child, I've never had a child. So, wow, I didn't think about it. Speaking about parenthood. Mother's Day, just an early warning. You're 6 days out from Mother's Day.
Yep.
Just saying. So
I'll be out of town.
Thank you, Juice.
Not anywhere near my mother, so sorry.
So now are you going to leave a card or send a card to mom even though you're out of town, or are you just going to let her wonder if you still love her?
I didn't get a card. Should I get a card? I didn't get a card.
You got 6 days. Yeah, get a card.
I've got it taken care of. I'll say that. She's probably listening right now. But cards are
okay. We got to be careful.
Cards are a waste of money and time. Are we still sending cards to people? They're pre-written. They're expensive as heck, man. Like it's a piece of paper that you're gonna open and be like, oh, I don't even see the money. Let me move past it to read these words of affection that somebody else wrote, and then throw it away.
It's garbage.
Cards are stupid.
But if it's a beautiful card, see, I have a hard. If I get a nice card from somebody, like a birthday card, and it's a nice card, and they say something nice, I tend to save that card. I like going through it 10 years later, going, "Hey, look what Jeremy got me on my birthday. It was a nice little card."
I think the only card I ever kept was from my great grandmother, like the last birthday card she sent me.
And aren't you glad you did?
And I can't read it because it's in cursive. It's an old lady cursive, and I couldn't tell you where it is, but I know it's somewhere.
80 years from now, when you're an old lady, you'll go, "Oh, I can read this now. It's an old lady cursive."
Brain,
now I'm
make
one.
A switch.
It took me 80 years, and I can now read this. Speaking of taking 80 years, it didn't take 80 years, but close. A baseball game between our beloved Texas Longhorns and Jeremy's beloved Oklahoma State Cowboys. A very interesting seventh inning, and not just the stretch. Shannon, what was going on in that game?
So, Chris, yesterday was a big baseball day for me. I mean, I got up in the morning, I played some MLB The Show, then I went to my boyfriend's baseball game and sat out there. I got myself a nice little sunburn in Texas. Oklahoma State, meanwhile, they had this series going throughout the weekend. Oklahoma State ends up winning it 3-0, toppling the Horns at home. But yesterday, The game was going on when we got home. We turned it on. We sat and ate lunch. Texas was up. It was the 6th inning. I go upstairs to take a shower, and I come back down, and they're still in the 7th inning. I felt like we should have been past it by that point. Oklahoma State, I think they scored 10 runs during that 7th inning there to take the lead in front of Texas. And ultimately, that inning ended up being stretched because of that. And then when Texas finally got to bat, they didn't score any runs. But that inning, 7th inning, 58 minutes, sir. There was one point.
58.
I think it was the final, just before the final out with Texas batters, and then they had the camera on a young lady, and the gentleman sitting next to her, and she had her hand over her face and her eyes were closed, and the announcers were like, yeah, she's feeling the stress of this one. I was like, no, she wanted to go home 3 hours ago. This one inning is taking an hour. She's done with this game. That is what she is saying. Because I'm at home on the couch, just are we gonna win or not? I'm waiting for it to go out. But the 7th inning, you're like, oh, we still have 2 more innings of this. Luckily, they didn't last as long. But man, 1 hour for an inning.
Now, Jeremy, it's your favorite school, Oklahoma State. When they score 10 runs, you probably would revel in a 58-minute inning as long as your team is scoring 10 runs.
Yeah, I saw a grand slam as a part of the festivities yesterday. A fun baseball game, and especially when you get 10 runs in an inning. But Chris, Shannon, I have sat at an Oklahoma State baseball game in a past life covering the team where the game lasted almost 6 hours before. A 6-hour baseball game in total. And I turn around, and instead of writing a story about the team or whatever, or what, something that happened, because it wasn't that exciting a game. It was 1-1 that just kept going into the 10th inning and whatnot. But I just wrote my story about how long I was there, and I just basically complained about it. And I interviewed people about, was this the longest baseball game you've ever been to? I love the America's pastime, but maybe there should be a little timer on this, just on the back end, to make sure this thing doesn't go 6 hours or 54 minutes in one inning. That's insane.
Yeah, they were showing the pitch
That is
clock,
wild.
and I was like, that's not helping in this situation. Imagine how much longer it would be if there wasn't a pitch clock.
Wow. That isn't and again, the traditionalist, and I'm not a baseball traditionalist, but I get baseball traditions. As soon as you say this, Jeremy, at first I go, maybe that's a good idea, but then again, maybe not. Just have an out time. It's all right, if it goes to 3 hours total, then we have a home run derby or something. Or, I don't know what you do, but
Hell, I don't know.
And the San Francisco Giants used to give out a medal. They called it the Croix de Candlestick when you stayed because it gets cold. It would get cold in San Francisco at night. So they handed out little medals if you would stay for extra inning games. All right, we are out of time. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, outstanding as always. Technical issues, but you did not phone it in on this Monday. We do appreciate that.
Not once.
You were on the phone, but you did not phone it in at one point.
Good work, Jeremy, for
and
keeping
Jeremy
it all together.
Kolok, you get a medal. Yes, Jeremy, you not the Croix de Candlestick, but you get some kind of a medal of honor for getting us out of trouble a lot all morning long. Thank you, sir. Thanks to Coach A, Paul Alexander, Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, among the guests on tomorrow's show. Have yourself a great Monday. Adios, amigos. All right, y'all. Sorry about the technical issues. Hopefully it'll be better tomorrow. And I'm sure it will, because Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, will be here tomorrow to complain about Lincoln Riley. All right. See y'all later. Adios.